Pokemon Day is nearly here, and there are people putting together different theories on what could be announced. It will have been exactly 1 year since we received any updates, and the excitement for what is to come next is palpable. But today, we are going to be taking a look at the Pokemon Legends ZA starters as we here at the Game House give our final predictions. Before we dive in, I'm going to ask that you guys like and subscribe if you enjoy Pokemon content, as we're coming out with new stuff nearly every single day, and that you comment below what your starters are going to be for Pokemon Legends ZA. Now let's hop into it, and we're going to be giving our theories, our different thoughts for every single starting Pokemon in the game. So there are 27, right? 3 for each of the generations, and we're going to explain why we think they have a chance or why they don't, and then we're going to give our final 3 for the actual predictions, for the water, grass, and fire starters. So let's jump out here. Let's get it started with Gen 1. We don't think any of the Gen 1 Pokemon, or I should say, I specifically don't believe that any of the Gen 1 Pokemon are going to be a Legends ZA starter, mostly because they already have Mega Forms, they already have Mega Evolutions, right? And I think that they are going to want to add new Mega Evolutions to the game. I will say that Charmander is definitely out in my mind, but Bulbasaur and Squirtle have at least a little bit of a better chance, considering they don't have 2 Mega Evolutions. I guess if they really wanted to go wild and decide to give, both Venusaur and Blastoise an X and a Y form, maybe people wouldn't be too upset about it, but they're just not going to be starters. They may be starters that you get later, similar to how it goes in the original X and Y games, but they will not be the ones that you start off with in the actual game. So we'll move on to Gen 2 here, and we'll start off with Cyndaquil. No chance Cyndaquil is going to be, the starter, or if it is, and this is a theory that we have seen out there, then it's going to be all 3 of the starters again from Legends Arceus. So Cyndaquil, Rowlet, and Oshawott. It's either going to be all 3 of them or none of the 3, excuse me. And so we feel like Cyndaquil is pretty much out. No shot there. Chikorita and Totodile definitely have a chance, but because Cyndaquil was already in Legends Arceus, we're giving it a little bit less of a chance than the other ones. Now we're into Gen 3, and we look at Gen 3 pretty much in the exact same way that we do with Gen 1, but there have been rumors and discussions about why Torchic could be in the game, right? The chicken specifically is held in high regard to the French people and some of the things that are a part of their culture, right? And so there is a chance of these 3 that Torchic could get in the game. The problem is all 3, again, they already have Mega Evolutions. So, Treecko, Torchic, and Mudkip, they have a lesser chance, and there's a good shot that they will be in the game. I would almost say that there's a 100% chance that they will end up in the game because they have Mega Evolutions, whether it's through a DLC or an after game part where you are able to go find some of the other Mega Evolutions. But there's no doubt in my mind personally that these 3 are going to be skipped over, as I think there are just better options. We head into Gen 4, where there is probably the highest chance, or the first of the higher chances of a Pokemon coming from this grouping. We're not going to give anything away with what we think right now, because now we're heading into the ones that are most likely, but Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup, they were all obviously in Legends Arceus, but they were not the starters. They were just walking around and were available for you to catch in the game. But we are saying that these 3 absolutely have a chance, and we will discuss whether or not they are going to be in the game later on as a starter. Gen 5 comes in, and very similar to what we've seen with Gen 2, right? Oshawott in Legends Arceus, but not going to, be in this game, at least as a starter. Snivy and Tepig do have a shot, though. And a lot of people have been predicting that they may make it into these games. There's another theory out there that while it may not be the 3 starters from Legends Arceus, that maybe it's the starters from these same generations right? So that Snivy and Tepig would have a shot in here. We are still saying that it probably has a little bit less of a chance than others, but there's definitely some validity to people's opinions on them potentially making this kind of their new thing where they're going to make, I believe it was actually on the Hidden Power podcast where they discussed this, where I heard it for the first time, saying that potentially that the Legends games are going to be, in threes, right? And that this is going to be, kind of the path that they're going to go. So, if we don't get Tepig in this game, then we'll get Tepig in the next game. So there's some, opinions out there that could be that. We think that seems unlikely, but there is a chance. We move on to the Gen 6 Pokemon, the starters, and let's be real here, right? They're going to be in the game, and if it's anything like Legends Arceus where they kind of follow that similar format, then they are going to be in the game as catchable Pokemon somewhere out in the wild, and they will probably get new Mega Evolutions. They may even be the ones that you get to get similar to how Gen 1 was in X and Y. Maybe it's the Gen 6 starters that you get later on in the game, just maybe not as a starter. Okay, Gen 7. Rowlet was in Legends Arceus, which makes it so that Litten and Popplio are a part of, what we already talked about, obviously, with Gens 1 or with Gens 2 and with 5, excuse me. So we won't dive too deep into that one, but Litten and Popplio do have a chance. They're just maybe a little bit less of one than some of the others. Here's where we get into one of our other ones that we think has a very high likelihood, and that's Gen 8 with Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble, all absolutely having a chance to make it into this game. They didn't really have one in Legends Arceus because they were the, most recent starters, and they wanted to kind of spread that love, obviously. But now we're past that. We've already gone into Gen 9. We're looking forward to Gen 10 as well. So these three absolutely have one. And again, for my personal opinion, I think that one of these three have the highest likelihood of making it in. And probably will be, well, not probably, will be one of the starters if I have anything to say about it, which I don't, but that's okay. We move on. Last one here is going to be Gen 9. And again, like Gen 8 didn't make it into Legends Arceus, Gen 9 just feels really unlikely to make it into Legends ZA. There's always a chance that they could decide to just throw one of these three in as a bit of a connection to Scarlet and Violet, and maybe that will bring those fans in for this game, right? But it just seems like, based on what we saw with the last game, and based on how, the rest of this has gone so far, we just don't see them as being very high. Even though I know when I did my initial tier list, I believe I had Sprigatito as one of the starters in the game. Things have changed a lot in the last 2+ months since I made that, and now I'm feeling like it's pretty much sure that these three are not going to be in it, but we're not going to completely count them out. All right, we are now officially to our predictions, so hopefully you guys have already locked yours in the comments, but maybe I guess you can cheat and try to copy me. I still don't think I'm going to end up being right, but I've done a lot of thinking on these starters, and these are the three that I think have the highest chance of making it in. And we're going to start with the one that I almost feel is a certainty, which is Piplup. And at this point, it would be more of a surprise if Piplup was not in the game as a starter. Empoleon and Napoleon, Napoleon Bonaparte and Empoleon, the Pokemon, right? It just makes way too much sense. Even the design of Empoleon, right, fits really well with this, opportunity to be in a French setting, right? And compared to the other realistic options, between Popplio, Sobble, and Totodile, it just feels like Piplup is a much better choice, and one that is a little bit more popular, to be honest with you. And it's really that when you compare Piplup to the other three starters and which one felt like it fits the theme, which is something that we saw with Legends Arceus, right? Samurott, Decidueye, and not really as much Typhlosion, but Samurott and Decidueye definitely felt like they fit very well into the theming of that generation, of that, older, I don't know, Hisuian setting is what we'll call it, right? An older Japan. And so with this game, being in France, you wanted to pick Pokemon that feel like they're going to fit with the theme the most. And Piplup does that way more, again, because of Empoleon, than Sobble does, than Popplio or Totodile, right? You're not going to really see a crocodile in France, I don't feel like. At least that's not something that I've really heard of very often, if at all, right? Obviously, there are frogs everywhere, so Popplio or Sobble could make sense, but it just felt like there was a better choice within that generation for us. And then for Popplio, kind of a similar thing as well, where there's not only a better choice, but it just didn't feel like having a seal running around in Lumio City would make as much sense. So Piplup kind of became the most obvious choice for us. And to add on to this, lastly, it is one of the more favorite starters because so many people love Generation 4, so it would just make sense for Piplup to get added. Up next, we have the grass starter, and our prediction is going to be Snivy. This one has changed. Like I said, I initially personally felt like, Sprigatito had the best chance, but when you look at the options between it, Grookey, Turtwig, and Chikorita, they're definitely all solid contenders, but Snivy actually feels like the French theme works with it perfectly. The fleur-de-lis, right, which is, the flower of France, if you want to call it that, right, is a major part of Serperior's design. And it feels like it will carry over whether it's into a Mega Evolution or if it gets a completely new evolution, right, a regional form. This feels like such a great option for the game, and I've been reading more and more online about people who just really feel strongly that Snivy's actually, even more than Piplup for some people, going to be the choice. It's just, this one doesn't feel as likely as Piplup, at least to me, right? The fleur-de-lis definitely helps. There's no doubt about that. But the Empoleon thing is just such a slam dunk. It would be really surprising not to see Piplup, but Snivy makes sense, and with Serperior, looking the way that it does, it feels like it would fit really well into this new game that they're putting in there. Plus, a snake, again, makes a little bit more sense than, a monkey and a dinosaur specifically, and realistically, Turtwig even. I know it's really a turtle, but at the same time, it ends up evolving into a dinosaur as well, so Snake makes a little bit more sense if we're going to be sticking mostly in Lumio City. Lastly, we're going to be looking at the Fire Starter, and this one was by far and away the hardest one, but I ended up settling on Scorbunny. And here's the main reason why. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but the football soccer player, angle works really well. France loves their football, slash American soccer, for those of you in America. And it just feels like another one that would make the most sense. Tepig and Litten were also choices, obviously, as well. And it feels like, and Chimchar as well, sorry, should have said that. But it just feels like, again, a bunny would make sense. It feels like having this Pokemon, be a part of the culture and be a part of the theme of France in Kalos just makes a ton of sense. You could very easily fit a monkey, a pig, or a cat. Any of those three would work very much as well. And it's for that reason that I think out of all of these three starter predictions, Scorbunny is the one that I have the lowest confidence in. I could very easily see them going Tepig, but then at the same time, then they can't go Snivy. I would really see them going Chimchar, but then they can't go Piplup. So then it really comes down to Scorbunny and to Litten, and Rowlet is already in Legends Arceus, so it feels like they're going to want to hit the newer generation, the newest one that they have available, and when it comes down to Scorbunny, Grookey, and Sobble, Scorbunny feels like the best option. Now, I've seen a lot of people who have put out these predictions as well, This feels like it's becoming a very popular one to predict, which means that we're definitely not going to get these 3. But I would love to know what you guys think. Make sure to let me know in the comment section below about which of these starters you think has the best chance, which ones you like the most. But that is going to wrap it up for us. We'll see you again on Pokemon Day. You can also check out all the other prediction videos that we're going to be putting out in anticipation of the Pokemon Presents. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. So with that, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.